Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where the words being exchanged felt like they were dancing around a point, never quite landing? You know, that moment when your friend says something that could mean 1,000 different things, and you're left wondering what on earth they actually meant. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. This phenomenon is known as strategic ambiguity, and it's a term that might sound a bit dry, but it's anything but boring. In fact, it's a powerful tool used in various fields, from politics to business to our personal relationships. So, what exactly is strategic ambiguity? At its core, it's the art of using vague language with multiple meanings to keep people guessing. Think of it as a way to create a fog around your intentions. In the workplace, for instance, it can be a method for managers to maintain control over their teams. If a manager says, "We'll decide on the project direction after we gather more feedback," it leaves room for interpretation. Employees may feel empowered to share their ideas, but it also keeps them on their toes, unsure of what the final decision might be. Now, you might be wondering why anyone would want to use this kind of communication. Isn't clarity supposed to be the goal? Well, yes and no. While clear communication is essential, strategic ambiguity can be vital in certain situations. For instance, in a fast-paced business environment, being too specific too soon can box you in. If you're launching a new product, you might want to keep your options open until you have all the data in front of you. By saying, "We're exploring various possibilities," you're allowing yourself the flexibility to pivot if needed. Let's look at some examples to illustrate this point. Imagine a politician on the campaign trail. They might say something like, "I'm committed to improving our education system," without detailing how they plan to do it. This statement sounds great, right? But it leaves a lot of room for interpretation. Voters might hear what they want to hear, and the candidate can avoid being pinned down to specific policies until after the election. It's a way of keeping their options open and appealing to a broader audience without committing to a particular path. In marketing, strategic ambiguity can be a game changer. Think about those advertisements that tease a product without revealing too much information. They create intrigue, making you curious about what's to come. For example, a company might announce something exciting is launching soon, without giving any details. This ambiguity stirs up anticipation and keeps customers engaged, eager to learn more. But let's not forget about personal relationships. Strategic ambiguity can also play a role here. Have you ever had a conversation with a friend who says, "I'm not sure how I feel about that"? It's vague enough to keep the other person guessing. Are they upset, indifferent, or simply processing their emotions? This kind of ambiguity can be a protective mechanism, allowing individuals to navigate complex feelings without fully committing to a specific stance. Now, while strategic ambiguity can be beneficial, it's not without its pitfalls. One significant drawback is that it can lead to confusion and misunderstanding. If a manager is too vague about expectations, employees might be left wondering what's really required of them. This can create frustration and even resentment, particularly if they feel like they're being kept in the dark. Clear communication is essential for building trust and fostering a positive work environment. In a world that often values transparency, strategic ambiguity can feel like a double-edged sword. It's about finding the right balance. You want to harness the power of ambiguity without veering into manipulation or deceit. It's essential to be mindful of how your words might be interpreted, and to be aware of the potential consequences of leaving things unsaid. So, how do you embrace strategic ambiguity in the workplace without falling into the trap of confusion? First, it's crucial to recognize when it's appropriate to use it. If you're in a brainstorming session, for instance, being open-ended can encourage creativity and innovation. But when it comes to setting clear goals or expectations, clarity should reign supreme. Another way to navigate strategic ambiguity is to create a culture of open communication. Encourage your team to ask questions and seek clarification. If someone seems confused about a vague directive, create an environment where they feel comfortable seeking more information. This way, you can maintain the benefits of strategic ambiguity while minimizing its downsides. Moreover, it's essential to be aware of your audience. What works in one context might not work in another. In a team of seasoned professionals, a little ambiguity may spark creativity, but in a group of new hires, it might lead to anxiety and uncertainty. Tailor your communication style to fit the needs of those you're working with. As we explore the importance of strategic ambiguity, it's also worth noting that it can help maintain a competitive advantage. In business, if you're too transparent about your strategies, competitors can easily replicate your moves. By keeping certain details under wraps, you can maintain an edge and keep others guessing about your next steps. However, it's essential to tread carefully. While strategic ambiguity can protect your business, it shouldn't come at the cost of trust. Building strong relationships with clients and customers requires a level of transparency. If they feel like they're being kept in the dark, it can lead to distrust and ultimately harm your brand. So, how do you strike that balance? It starts with being intentional in your communication. Use strategic ambiguity when it makes sense, but also be ready to provide clarity when needed. It's about knowing when to play your cards close to your chest and when to lay them on the table. As we wrap up this exploration of strategic ambiguity, it's clear that it's a nuanced tool that can be wielded effectively in various contexts. Whether in politics, business, or personal relationships, the ability to navigate ambiguity can lead to better outcomes and more meaningful connections. So, the next time you find yourself in a conversation where the meaning feels a bit slippery, remember that it might just be a strategic choice. Embrace the ambiguity, ask questions, and don't be afraid to seek clarity when you need it. After all, communication is an art, and sometimes the most beautiful masterpieces are painted with a little bit of mystery.